Advantage Acre is a simplified, comprehensive field management tool that takes the complexity of precision agriculture and makes it practical.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jade Sills, and I'm a member of the Advantage Acre support team. And today we're going to talk about U.S. soil survey maps. But before we get started, I just wanted to give a couple housekeeping notes. So as you guys have questions, just raise your hand, and then we'll unmute you. But we won't answer questions until the very end. But we're going to only unmute you once you raise your hand. So at this time, everyone is muted, though. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. So this morning we're talking about U.S. soil survey maps. So U.S. soil survey, when you say mapping soil types, this is what comes to people's minds. So this was built over decades ago, and it depends upon the soil surveyor's interpretation of the soil that they're looking at. So we utilize this USDA soil map not only in its current form, but we enhance it with our functional soil maps. But today we want to just talk about the U.S. soil survey map. So our agenda for the day is we're going to interpret the SSURGO maps. We're going to then apply SSURGO maps to hybrid selection decisions, and then we're going to upload soil test data. So let's go ahead and let's get started then. So when you first log into Advantage Acre, you're going to select a field, and once you've selected a field, you'll then be taken to this page where you can see your field. So it's important that you make sure you select on the word soil in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Once you've selected the word soil, you will then be taken to this page where you will see the soil type. So when we say soil type, what we're referring to is the U.S. Soil Survey, so the SSURGO map. So once you've selected soil, this is automatically what you're going to see first off. So once you select on surface texture, then you'll have a pull down that shows you your organic matter, your CEC, your pH, drainage, and your depth to restricted layer. So today we're going to break these down in more detail and talk about them individually. So let's go ahead and let's get started with surface texture. So with the surface texture on the left-hand side, you can see it's telling me the different textures for each of the different colors and the different types of soil, and then it tells me the acres for each of those. So as you can see, we have some sandy portions in this field. I have demonstrated this with the different arrows on the screen, and if you notice, most of the sandier areas are kind of towards the middle of the field. So what can we gather from the surface texture information? So what we can observe is that 46% of the acres of this field is sandy, and most of those acres are located mainly in the center of the field. We also can gather the information that 54% of the acres of this field is more of a loam soil type, and those are located mainly on the outside of the field. And I'm going to go through each one of these, and then at the very end we're going to kind of put it all together and it all makes sense of how we're going to utilize this information. So let's dig into organic matter. So organic matter percent. Again, it's the same as the soil types, but now it gives us a percentage right here for each organic matter for each different soil type, along with the total number of acres. So the thing that I want to point out in the organic matter percent is that there's two soil types that we have an organic matter percent over 3. And so that would be your berry loam and your rensselaer loam, and those are at 4.5. But the rest of the soil types are under 3 for organic matter percent. So what we can observe from this information is that 81% of the acres of this specific field has less than 3% organic matter. So again, we'll wrap all this up at the end, but we just want to observe that that's 81%. So again, majority of the field has less than 3% organic matter. So now let's dive into CEC, or cation exchange capacity. So CEC is kind of a composite of what we've already looked at. It takes into effect sand, clay content, and organic matter. The higher amount of clay and organic matter in the soil, then the CEC will most likely increase. As we learned in the previous two slides, the field has a large amount of sand and not that much organic matter. So this already kind of gives us an idea of what our CEC could possibly be and what the potential of it is. Now let's go ahead and let's break down the CEC and what we're seeing. So as you'll notice, there's a berry loam and a rensselaer loam. Or as you notice, there's more of a sandier soil at the very top, and then there's two loam soils, and all their CEC numbers are fairly similar. So we have 11.5, a 12, and a 12. So those are very similar to each other. Also, and you'll notice there's the two loams that we kind of pointed out that they have the higher organic matter. They also have the higher CEC. So if you're following along with my mouse, it's right under the brackets, but they each have the higher CEC number as well. So it's important to understand that, so what we gathered from the CEC value in the sand and loam soils, the value is about the same. And the soil types that had higher organic matter also had higher CEC. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, they correlate, and so we are kind of expecting that. So something important to kind of take away about the CEC is that for fertility purpose, the CEC is very important. So it really helps your fertilizer suppliers have a better understanding of the buffering and ions that the soil can hold. For us, though, it's simply a quick and easy way to kind of look at the soil productivity index, because like I mentioned earlier, we're putting together the sand and clay content with the organic matter. So it's more of just an overview. Now we're going to dive into drainage. So for drainage, again, it's just like the others where we have the soil name, but then it says class. So under class, it tells me whether that soil is well drained, somewhat poorly drained, or poorly drained. And then it gives me the total acres as well. So what are some things that we can notice with drainage when looking at the U.S. Soil Survey maps? So as you can see, I've shown some arrows where I notice the poorly drained soil types, or somewhat poorly drained. And again, those are around the outside edge of the field. Then you notice that there's some well-drained soil types in this field, but those are more towards the center of the field. And this correlates with our different soil types, our organic matter, our CEC. Everything has correlated with each other so far. So what can we take out of drainage? So 55% of the acres are somewhat poorly to poorly drained, while 45% of the acres are well drained. So a little bit over half of the field is somewhat poorly to poorly drained, and those areas are more along the edge of the field, while the remaining of the field is well drained, but that's towards the center of the field. So now we've gone ahead and we've walked through each one of these different attributes that you can get in the U.S. Soil Survey within Advantage Acre. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to Advantage Acre and we're going to go to the seed plan. So how are we going to use this information? So when you're first selecting a hybrid, you were on the seed plan on the right-hand side of the screen. As you can see, I've selected my field, and now we're on the seed plan. So when you're trying to select a hybrid, you have the ability to choose your maturity range. So I'm going to say I want a maturity range of 105 to 113 day. And then I also have the ability to choose from my trait combination. So for this example, I'm going to go ahead and choose Smart Stacks. So once I've chosen Smart Stacks and narrowed down my maturity range, then it gives me a list of products that I can choose from. Well, how do we know what products to choose from? So that's where all this information that we've just talked about comes into play. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start thinking about hybrid characteristics. So with the U.S. Survey SSURGO maps, what hybrid characteristics are going to best fit this field? So when you think about this hybrid placement, we say when making a hybrid selection, it's genetics, by environment, by management. So for today, we're just talking and we're looking at a small portion of the environment based upon our SSURGO maps. So the environment is what we're kind of digging into today. So here's a list of hybrid characteristics that we could potentially look at when trying to select a hybrid and deciding where to place that specific hybrid. So emergence and vigor. So unless we're planting early, I don't really see emergence and vigor as a key driver in selecting a hybrid for this specific field based on the information that we gathered from the SSURGO map. Plant health. So plant health is related heavily on the environment. So what's the environment like, and what's the environment going to do? And so when we're looking at SSURGO maps, we don't really believe that this is going to be a major issue for this field. But again, environment is something that the farmer knows best. So the farmer is going to know that specific environment for each field, and he's going to have a better understanding of whether it's something that could be of concern or not for each specific field. Nitrogen needs. So with a high amount of sand and some poorly drained soils, denitrification could be a problem in this field. So if it were me, I'm going to be looking for hybrids that aren't large users of N, just for the sheer fact that there could be a denitrification issue in the future. So as you can see, I put a little check mark next to the word nitrogen need. This is simply to show that this is something that I would pay attention to when selecting a hybrid for this specific field. So water utilization. Water utilization is very important to take into consideration with sandy soils. So I believe that it would be really important for this specific field to pay attention to how the hybrids manage their water, and make sure you put that into effect when selecting a hybrid for this specific field. Root type. Sandy soils, you would want hybrid with a more fibrous root, and we have quite a bit of sandy soils in this field. So the fibrous root would allow this root system to catch more water as it passes by. So it would be important to have more of a fibrous root for those sandier type of soils, but if you were to have more of a clay type of soil, you'd probably want more penetrating root, or a root with a deeper cap system. Stalk strength. So if soils are prone to drought, they might not be able to build the stalk strength up. So it is important to look for a hybrid that already has some stalk strength to it, and that will help. Those will be better on this type of field in this certain situation. So defensive or offensive. In this specific case, I would say we need to lead more towards a defensive hybrid. Hybrids that have defensive characteristics. Test weight. So sand can become more challenged during the middle of the season. So I'd say it's really important to look for a hybrid that has some good test weight, just because with a sandier soil, you could become more of a challenge putting on good test weight during the middle of the season if there's high stress. Adaptability. So when we say adaptability, we're thinking fixed or flexier. So in this case, it would kind of be personal preference, but for me, I would say I would probably hedge my bet and I would choose a hybrid with a flexier, because then you could get away with planting a lower population, and if you didn't get the adequate amount of rain, or then you would have the ability to, you wouldn't be wasting as much money or putting as much money into the field, but if you did get an adequate amount of rain, you would hope that that flexier would cover you and make up for the lower population. So there's also 3 left that I'm not going to go into detail individually about, and that would be your heat needs, late planting, and early harvest. The reason I'm not going to talk about these individually is just because I don't believe that the SSURGO maps provide us with enough information to make any decisions for these 3. But our goal for this presentation and the hybrid placement information is just simply to help you guys get a better understanding that with the U.S. Soil Survey maps, you do have the ability to make some hybrid selections, and you do have information that you can gather for each field that will help you make better decisions on your farm and placing those hybrids. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and we're going to upload some soil data. So I'm going to demonstrate quickly how we can upload soil data into Advantage Acre. So I've already clicked on my field, and I'm going to select soil. Once I've selected soil, it automatically takes me to soil type, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select soil test and then simply hit upload. I'm then going to find my soil test information, and once I've found that zipped file with my soil test information, I'm going to simply double click on it and it will upload it into Advantage Acre. We'll then see this screen that says Romine Farm, and it has all this include, don't include information. So as I go through this, I can decide if I want to include something or not. And when it simply says include or do not include, that means what will you be able to see within Advantage Acre. So it automatically will select certain ones for you, but then you can add ones as you see needed. So once I've gone through and made sure that the ones that I want included are indeed included, I can simply hit the word confirm, and it'll say generating layers, and then it puts the soil test in Advantage Acre for me. And I can simply click on one of the attributes, and I can see CC in the map version along with the little key or the legend on the left-hand side. So uploading soil tests is simple, very easy. It's just a couple of clicks of a button. It's just making sure that you do have that zipped file format and that zipped shape file. So at this time, if anyone has any questions or needs more information about anything we covered today, if you could please raise your hand and we will unmute you. Also, I just wanted to touch base with, we will have another training session on January 9th. Again, that's Monday, January 9th at the same time at 9 a.m. And it'll be about learning more about functional soil maps. So it'll be similar to what we talked about today, but we're going to dive into functional soil maps. So we're using the U.S. soil surveys with our functional soil maps. So you'll have the ability to understand and interpret the functional soil survey and also learn about the productivity index. Okay, well, if there is no questions, I'm going to go ahead and stay on here for a couple more minutes. And if anyone has a question or comment, we will be taking those. Otherwise, you can give us a call on our support number, 1-855-278-9134, or feel free to send us an email at support@advantageacre.com. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and learning more in this week's webinar. Have a great week.
Here at Advantage Acre, we value support. If you have questions and need to contact us, feel free to call us at 1-855-278-9134 or email us at support@advantageacre.com. Thanks for watching.